and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Segment. So, everyone, turns out, vote blue no matter who. Cul-de-sac progressives, blue checkmark people. When you were saying that things were going to get better, the Biden-Harris administration were going to turn soul back to this country, that things were going to be better, that we're going to get rid of Trump. And to be very clear to everyone, I don't like Donald Trump. I personally thought, the guy is not fit for office. None of these presidents are. None of our politicians are. It's one big club and you ain't in it. These politicians are sick and corrupt, and Donald Trump is just, he's not the architect of this neoliberal nightmare. He's a parasite. But he got elected into office in 2016. I didn't want to see that happen, and I didn't want to see him get reelected in 2020. But if he was such a bad man, such a danger to the free world, to democracy at large, we would all assume that the Democrats, especially the Biden-Harris administration, would do everything they could to get rid of Trump. I remember even seeing tweets when Biden got inaugurated especially some blue checkmark people who were saying, hold on, kids, we're going to get you out of those cages. Hang on, things are going good for the border. We're going to start treating people with dignity and respect. We're going to get rid of all of Trump's policies. Turns out, as we've reported in the past, that the Biden-Harris administration are going to keep some of Donald Trump's policies, especially when it comes down to amnesty and other situations at the border. Turns out, nothing is fundamentally changing. Don't believe me? Check out this video from Case Study QB, good friend of the show. Be sure to follow him on Twitter, and be sure to support his original YouTube channel on YouTube and on Odyssey. So, Faze, if we can, let's play this video. Everyone, turns out the Biden-Harris administration will continue on some deplorable Trump border policies. Let's play it.
What a shock.
Tell us about this Remain in Mexico policy. What's it going to look like when it comes back into force?
Well, as you mentioned, Jose, this is not the outcome the Biden administration wanted. They did not want to put this Trump-era policy back in place. You mentioned the president had called this inhumane. Officials have cited the risk of violence that migrants can face in these camps, things like kidnappings and rapes and assaults. But based on this court order, the administration said they are moving forward with putting this policy back into place, likely sometime in mid-November. They are going to try and make some adjustments here that could, potentially make it so migrants aren't being held indefinitely in these camps. One of those is that within at least 6 months, they are going to try and get a court hearing for migrants, an asylum hearing with a judge, and they're also going to have those hearings at one of 10 courts that are going to be set up at the border for those migrants to have their hearings at.
Seems kind of like what Trump had put into place on the MPP and the Remain in Mexico issue. Shannon, what I don't understand is, so President Trump put in this policy. He negotiated with the Mexican government so that migrants that wanted to come into the United States await their cases in Mexico. Why is it that that was acceptable, and now a judge and up to the Supreme Court says that it's not acceptable to remove that policy?
Well, a lot of this is going to continue to play out in the courts. The Supreme Court essentially declined to intervene at this time. And while this process continues to play out, though, the courts have said that this now needs to be put into place while those legal challenges continue. So we could see a reverse in this policy. We could see some changes to come. But the court's saying, at least for now, this is a policy that needs to be put in place.
Shannon Pettypiece at the White House, thank you for being with me.
So let me clear that up for all of you, for those of you who have been paying attention. But for those of you who haven't, let's be very clear. Nothing is going to fundamentally change. All that hype that the Biden-Harris administration, all the progressives and cul-de-sac progressives, and vote blue no matter who people were saying, that things are going to be better. Biden's different. He's more humane. He's more compassionate. Joe Biden was against busing. He was against desegregation. He was for the war in Iraq. And he voted with the credit card corporations to basically make student debt for what it is. Biden could change things, but he's not. And I want to remind everyone, too, that Trump didn't create ICE. Trump didn't create those cages where those unfortunate children are in. This was done under President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. A Democratic administration implemented these barbaric policies south of the border, and Donald Trump, when he got elected into office, inherited them. And he made them worse. But because he made it so worse, the Democrats are still continuing on, especially under the Democratic administration of Biden and Harris. They ran a good game of lying, saying that how they're going to be more humane. And of course, you have progressive members like the Squad, AOC, saying the Biden-Harris administration exceeds expectations. Hey, Bernie, that's your good friend Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, right? That's the one who you just dropped out of the race for, your friend. Everyone's saying how humane Biden is, but nothing's changing. Nothing's changing at all. Where's AOC at crying at the border? Oh, wait, she's at a gala event and also, voting present for the, again, Iron Dome. Where's all the other progressives at? Quiet. Where's Senator Sinema at? Oh, I know where she's at. She's in the John flushing down the toilet. Where's Bernie at? Being a cuck. Where are these so-called lions in the United States Senate and House that are progressives that are supposed to raise the ruckus, create a revolution, and push back? Silence. Does the Biden-Harris administration still exceed expectations, AOC? Hey, everyone, let's go back in time to 2019. I got a video to pull up for all of you. And again, it's very interesting. Let's go ahead and play this video right here, Jerry, and then Jerry, we'll get your thoughts on this.
We've always presented ourselves as being a nation of strength with strong arms, that when people are fleeing harm, we will embrace them. But look at what has happened with this administration. There are children who are fleeing murder capitals of the world. Let's be clear about this. Imagine a mother who makes a decision to pay a coyote to transport her child across the entire country of Mexico, facing unknown peril. She does that because she believes for that child to stay where they are is worse. But what does this president do? He virtually looks at those children and says, go back to where you came from.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come.
Do not come.
Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration.
Let's pause it here.
And I believe...
Let's pause it right here. Jerry, after seeing that comparison from what Harris said in the campaign trail to what she did in 2021 in that infamous tour she did south of the border in Mexico and Central America, your thoughts on the hypocrisy of the Biden-Harris administration?
Kit, I'm a broken record. Kamala Harris will say anything and stand for nothing. We're used to this from her. And when you said a moment ago, Joe Biden won't do anything, it's because he doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. They have the power to do it. It's so heartwarming to see them reaching across the aisle and satisfying their Republican friends, because this is everything the Republicans want. The Democrats have become the Republic. There's no difference anymore, Kit. I just drives me crazy. There's no difference. I can't discriminate a difference between the two. They're fighting all the time. They're always, trying to divide us because of their fighting in Congress, but fundamentally they're all the same.
Agreed. Another thing, too, that needs to be pointed out, especially about the Biden-Harris administration, is that, hey, vote blue no matter who. You're walking into the midterm election cycle with absolute devastating polling numbers.
It's going to be a massacre.
You're also walking into the fact that you didn't really get anything done, and nothing has fundamentally changed. And it's been very clear that possibly, and look, it's very likely at this point, but we'll see what happens in 2024, that Donald Trump is going to throw his hat in the ring again. It's going to happen. And every single cul-de-sac progressive, every single vote blue no matter who, liberal blue checkmark bastard are going to tell us, oh, you got to vote Democrat because Trump. Well, the Democrats are continuing on his policies. It's the Democrats that laid the foundation for Trump. It's the Democrats that constantly placate to the establishment because they're owned by the establishment. They're part of the establishment. They don't give a damn about us. They never will. And as we see the system collapse, as we're seeing the Democrats constantly becoming hypocrites, we don't owe them a goddamn thing. It's hilarious to me that once again, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden continue on Trump's policies. But what's their excuse? Nothing can't get done? It's very similar to, again, how they view a lot of their other responsibilities. Nothing can't get done. They just can't do a goddamn thing. So what do I owe to Democrats? They're not going to get my vote. Jerry, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think, what was I about to say here? I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine.
We were talking about the massacre of the... Oh, this is what I was going to tell you. I don't think people realize this because mainstream media is not covering it right now. But Trump is rallying all over the nation.
Yeah.
I see on alternative media, he's got his rallies, he's got his fundraisers. They will start promoting that when it's valuable to start, propping up the fact there's a boogeyman that suddenly we have to be worried about. But at that point, what is it going to matter? I mean, Trump is rallying his forces. The Democrats are delivering nothing. There's going to be no excitement to vote for the Democrats because they've delivered on nothing. And they are enabling his return.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, win or lose, the Democrats are still going to be sitting comfortably on their fat asses, taking donations, even if Trump wins, because then they're going to have a boogeyman to fundraise on and say, please send us more money. We have to fight him. Okay, we sent you money before. What did you do when you were in there? Well, we had Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And
why don't you put them in line? Why don't you,
the way that Nancy Pelosi puts the fraud squad in line all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I guarantee. Remember when we saw AOC on the floor crying after Nancy Pelosi came over to her and basically told her how to get her mind right?
Yeah.
Why don't they do that to Manchin and Sinema? Because they don't want to.
And by the way, just again showing the hypocrisy of the Biden-Harris administration, through executive order, shout out to Roger Meadows, Biden can actually make cannabis legal. Through executive order, Biden can actually get rid of student debt. And so many other things too. Through executive order, President Joe 30330 can actually do it. But he's choosing not to. He's being a senile old bat. He's got a vice president that's very unpopular, got 0 delegates. And again, should she choose to run in 2024, it's going to be hilarious to see how she's going to run her campaign. Because if there's any indication of how she ran her campaign in the early primaries, it's going to be a disaster. Remember, it went bankrupt. It went belly up. It didn't even participate in any of the primary elections. She dropped out before the fighting even started. Democrats, I'm so curious what kind of fear tactics you're going to use on telling us we got to vote Democrat in the midterms and in 2024. I'm wondering what their heavy hitters, the people who carry water for them, what are you going to use? You see, the thing is, Trump's going to run again. And corporate media, they need that orange cocaine. They need it bad. And so do the Democrats. They need it so bad that Trump's going to run again, and we're going to deal with the same story over and over again. So everyone, don't be surprised when Trump announces his run. Don't be surprised that when you see all the activists or people who are on brunch all of a sudden protesting in front of Trump's properties, even though he doesn't own any of them. Let's be very clear here. History is repeating itself. And my solution is this. Don't vote Democrat. Don't vote Republican. Support ballot initiatives. Vote down ticket. And support and start actually building an infrastructure for third parties. Green Party, get your act together. Moving for People's Party. Hope you can actually get your act together. Libertarians, I'm going to throw you in here too. Get your act together. Social Alternative, they're a political organization, but through Kshama Sawant, she has been able to maintain a seat and has been the bane to the Democrats and Republicans in Seattle. We have to look at independent parties, third parties. We need to start building the infrastructure and also doing a general strike, which is what we're seeing right now. Because we saw the 2 videos. We saw what Biden and Harris are really going to offer. And that's nothing. Like Biden said, nothing will fundamentally change. And it was very true. I just didn't know it'd be that true. And I guess, hey, turns out Trump isn't so deplorable because the Democrats are still, or at least the Biden-Harris administration, are still implementing his border policies. Talk about returning back to Seoul. Right here. That being said, we're going to move on now to our next story. Before we do,
can I add something, Kit?
Oh, go
really
ahead.
Quickly. When all this happens, you know who the Democrats are not going to take responsibility for it any more than they took responsibility for Trump's ascension when Hillary Clinton ran against him. They're going to blame everybody else but themselves. When Trump runs again, the Democrats will have nobody to blame but themselves. Period. But they're never going to own that. They will never own it.
Agreed.